Hi, so today we are talking about the things they carried, and we're going to get started on the text today. But the real focus that we want to start thinking about is how can authors create character indirectly through objects? And what we carry says a lot about who we are. So if we think back to the activities that we've done, if you looked at the backpack activity, right, and you had to put in these objects, really what you carry says a lot about you. The same with your CSI Cottage Grove, where you had to explain who or try and guess who the teachers were. That's the same thing. What these teachers carry says a lot about who they are as people as well. And so that's one thing that O'Brien is going to do. He's going to explain who his characters are based on the things they carry, right? Very creative title right there. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to take out your text. If you prefer, there's a PDF on Schoology under course resources, so you could use that as well, whichever one is better for you. And I want to talk to you guys a little bit about the novel itself so you kind of know what to expect. So The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien. Tim O'Brien is a Minnesota author. He was he is a Vietnam vet, and his experiences in Vietnam really did impact him. They made a huge difference in his life, and he talks about it in great detail in every interview that he ever gives. Most of his novels are all about the Vietnam War as well, so he uses it as a central focus as well. This, however, is a work of fiction. So from the beginning, he'll tell you that it's a work of fiction. It's not nonfiction. Even though it's going to read like nonfiction, it's going to feel like nonfiction. It feels very true, and the emotions are very real and raw. As it is about the Vietnam War, you need to note that there are some graphic images, not terrible things. It's not out of the ordinary, but there's a lot of trauma in the Vietnam War that the soldiers would have to deal with. There's a lot of things that soldiers did that they weren't proud of, and you can see the effects of dealing with that in the things they carried. You'll also see that in war, people's mentality is totally different. It's live or die. And so a lot of times they make moral decisions that we would not have to, and that it's easy for us to judge sitting here safe in our houses years later when technology has changed. But in Vietnam, these soldiers did a lot of things that even they might not have been proud of, but that still happened. So we need to just think about that and remember that. We're going to be talking about the Vietnam War. You're going to be watching a video on the Vietnam War today, so to make sure we understand a little bit more about it and what it is. The other thing that I want to give you a heads up on, the other trigger besides trauma, is this idea of language. The soldiers speak like real soldiers. So that means there's going to be a few words that are not school appropriate words necessarily, but they're words that are the truth of soldiers. And as O'Brien, he's very big on truth, and so it's the truth of his emotions. So heads up that that'll be coming your way. I don't want you to be surprised as you're reading. The other thing is that it's a series of short stories in this frame. So you have all the same characters. You'll meet the characters in this first chapter. So you meet Lieutenant Jimmy Cross. And Lieutenant Jimmy Cross is going to be a character in several other stories as well. Kiowa is going to be a character in several other stories. So it's important that you kind of figure out who these people are at the beginning. The first chapter really sets up what the rest of it's going to be. So this novel right here is one of my favorites ever. Like I just love it. I think it's beautifully written. I think O'Brien is a masterful storyteller, and he's a craftsman. So the idea of authors really selecting their word choice, and some people say, as I said in the other video, like, what if the A was meant to be an A and the was meant to be a the? O'Brien is very careful. And we know that because he publishes some of these stories as short stories before. So they've been multiple drafts, and we can see, if you want, if this is something that you're excited about, you can go through and you can look at a short story that it's in this book. You can see the drafts of it going throughout. It's pretty cool. Other thing that you should know about this text is that even though the stories are about the same people, they don't necessarily go in order. So if you're in class, you've heard this before, but the stories, because they're short stories, you can read, Tuesday's reading ahead of Monday's reading. And you'll actually notice if you look at the reading schedule on the calendar under course resources, you'll notice that a lot of the stories aren't actually being read. So you can feel free to continue on and read them, but they're not ones that we actually have time for due to our shortened trimester. So that's just something that's going to be a little bit different about this book from other books you've read, from other novels that you've read. So we would like you to download the study guide. It's on Schoology. You'll see it under, it's in today's date. It's also under course resources as well in case you lose it. And that study guide is to help you. We're not going to be collecting it, so it's not something, you really have to like, oh, hey, give me the answer to number 4. We're going to use it as a discussion tool. We'll ask you questions from it in class, but ideally you'll at least have read the questions before you're reading or as you're reading, so you can think about the answers, so you have some ideas. It's going to call you to think about some of the deeper meanings to the story as well. So that is the purpose behind the study guide. And the order of it is not in order of the text, it's actually in order that we're reading it to. So you'll see that as you're going through. So this is about the things they carried. When you're done listening to this video, then you're going to go through and watch the Vietnam background. Notice there is a question on the study guide that just asks you what you noticed, what you thought. So you're going to read through that. Watch that. It's a video. And then after you're done watching, then you are going to read the first chapter, the things they carried, right? Just the chapter. One time I assigned it and a student came back the next day and was like, you know what? I only got halfway through. I was like, halfway through the story. I'm like, okay, well, we'll finish. No, well, the story, I got halfway through the book because they thought I was assigning the entire book in one night. I'm not doing that. I'm just assigning that first chapter, the things they carried, okay? Looking forward to talking with you all about the story. There's a lot to it. What we want you to do as you read is to think about what we learn about the characters from what they carry, all right? Also on Schoology, you'll find there is an audio link under course resources as well, so if you prefer to listen, you can feel free to do that. The version I have on there is the Bryan Cranston version, who's such a great actor, so he does a really good job reading it. The voice is really clean and clear. So if you have any questions, let us know. Watch the Vietnam video, read chapter 1. Thanks, everybody. Have a great Monday.